If you're like me, or anyone I know, you're wondering, why are we even in this war? Have you seen these grocery prices? Why would a country with so many issues at home start a war abroad? One that nobody voted on and nobody elected for. You may also be asking yourself, how did we even get here? Today we're going to look at the bank's role in war and how it affects the people and their economies. The real, the dollar, different names, same story. They told you this war was about weapons. It's not. Stick with me and we'll follow the money. And I do mean that literally. And where it leads is somewhere most people aren't looking. Oh, nice. 50% off. Somewhere that connects directly as to why Bitcoin exists and why what just happened may be one of the most clarifying moments we've ever had. Emotions. This is beyond Bitcoin. Don't judge me. Look, I've been scrolling through my feed all this week, sitting with this. And the question I keep seeing, the one that everyone's asking, is the same one I opened with. Why are we here? Why now? Why Iran? They gave you an answer. Nuclear weapons, national security, regime change, the same reasons they always give. I'm going to walk you through why that's not the real answer. And then I'm going to show you what is. Because when you see it, when you actually follow the money, Bitcoin stops looking like a speculative asset and starts looking like the most logical response to an insane system. Bitcoin dropped when the news broke. A lot of people panicked, and a lot of people asked, isn't it supposed to go up when things get scary? We're going to answer that question too. So 3 things here. First, banks' role in the war. There's a pattern here that goes back decades, and someone just explained it on camera better than anyone that I've heard. We have the clip too, exclusively. Just kidding, it's on the internet. You can go check it out yourself. It's from a Tucker Carlson interview. Anyway, second, what war actually does to people and their economies, not the geopolitics, the human cost, the real, the dollar. What happens to regular families when the money breaks? And third, where Bitcoin fits into all of this, because Bitcoin's reaction to this weekend wasn't a fluke. There's something else going on here, and once you understand what that something else is, what actually is being fought over, well, let me know, because I'm trying to make an episode here. Here's the question I want you to sit with. Why does the United States keep going back to the Middle East? Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen, and now Iran. The official reason changes every time. WMDs, Al-Qaeda, humanitarian intervention, nuclear weapons. The packaging is always different, but the destination keeps being the same region, the same kinds of governments, the same outcome. I want to show you a clip because someone actually sat down and said out loud on camera what most journalists won't go near. And I think it's the most important context for everything happening right now. Put that down for a second. She's not talking about ideology. She's not talking about terrorism. She's not talking about nuclear weapons. She's talking about central banks. And her argument, the countries that end up on the receiving end of the US military force are the countries whose central banks are not on board with programmable money, with digital IDs, with a global interoperable financial system that can be monitored and controlled from the top down. And the key line, it's not about their nukes. Iran's central bank counts. Not because of the weapons, but because of who controls the financial rails that oil and trade run on. Is this bullish for Bitcoin? Arthur Hayes seems to think so. Now, what is programmable money? Because this is the part that connects directly to you. A CBDC, a central bank digital currency, is a money that comes with rules built inside of it. The government can see every transaction. They can program what you're allowed to spend it on. They can set an expiry date. They can turn your account off. China already does this. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a policy that's been publicly discussed at the IMF, the World Bank, and central banks on every continent. Catherine Austin Fitts, the woman in that clip, says that problem is leakage, meaning there are too many countries, too many people, too many economies operating outside of that system, countries like Iran, and leakage apparently has to be fixed. Surprise, surprise, that's where the bombs come in.
Everything is digital, and what is not digital is gradually and more rapidly than gradually becoming digital. You buy digitally, we speak digitally. There are lots of things that are taking place that way. So why wouldn't currency also be digital? I'm going to oversimplify it. Yeah. You have central bank money, which is essentially, let's say, banknotes. And that central bank money is critically important for the trust that people have in the system. The fact that you hold a dollar, that I hold a euro, is, in euro we trust, and we know that that banknote is always going to be honored. It is central bank money. Right. Then you have commercial bank money, which is what commercial banks create by activating, granting loans, and it's a whole different situation. But if you just look at central bank money, why would it not also turn digital? Why would we always and forever rely on banknotes as our basis for the currency? Yeah. So I think we owe it to future generations and to all of us to build that alternative of digital currency, which is, to oversimplify it, it's digital banknote with less total anonymity, which is probably right, given the security that we want to give each other and the respect that we have for that, both the confidentiality of information, which we are working hard so that there is as much privacy as possible, but equally the fact that it cannot be totally anonymous and facilitate the likes of money laundering, financing of terrorism, and what have you.
Notice how Lagarde fumbles around when she gets to the stuff about privacy? Yeah, I'm sure you really want to give us the respect we all deserve, Christine. Let's take a quick break here, and honestly, given everything that we just talked about, this sponsor feels unusually on theme. This episode is brought to you by sat123.com. Premium survival gear and preparedness equipment. Top-of-the-line satellite phones and solar power generators at sat123.com. They keep you connected when the main systems do not. And if you go to sat123.com right now and you use the promo code SIMPLY, you'll get 15% off your entire purchase. That's sat123.com, promo code SIMPLY. Go check them out. I want to talk about the people for a second because I think we're losing this in the politics. There are regular people in Iran now, families, people who did not choose their government, did not vote for this war, and have been watching their life savings disappear for years. The Iranian rial has lost the overwhelming majority of its value over the last decade, not because Iranians are bad at economics, but because sanctions, money printing, and a government trying to survive have quietly destroyed the savings of every ordinary person in that country. Think about what that means. You saved your whole life, and then, through no fault of your own, no bad investment, no gambling, you held the money your government told you to hold, and it evaporated. Now look at the dollar. The dollar has lost over 20% of its purchasing power since 2020 alone. You feel it every time you go to the grocery store, every time you fill up your tank, every time you scroll Zillow at 2 a.m. The rial, the dollar, different names, same story. And every war makes it worse, because wars cost money. Hundreds of billions, sometimes trillions. And that money has to come from somewhere. Do you know where that money comes from? That's right, the printing press. And here's the immediate economic picture from this specific war. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that carries roughly a third of the world's seaborne crude oil, has effectively stopped moving tankers. Wait, what? Shipping companies pulled their vessels. Insurance premiums spiked. Oil jumped. Energy analysts are warning about $100 oil if this doesn't de-escalate. That's not an abstraction. That's your gas prices, your grocery bill, the cost of everything that gets shipped anywhere. The Fed just took a rate cut off the table. Oil spikes means inflation. Inflation means holding rates. The economy is stuck between a war and a hard place. And then there's Bitcoin. Bitcoin dropped, as we all know, when the news broke. People panicked. A lot of the same informed citizens who ask, wait a second, isn't it supposed to go up when things are scarier? They sold. Here's the thing though, Bitcoin was the only liquid market open when the bombs were falling. Saturday morning, at 2 a.m, every single bank was closed. Every single stock exchange was dark. But Bitcoin was trading. It absorbed the fear. It took the selling pressure that would have spread across every market on Earth if those markets were open. And then it came back. Before Wall Street opened, before any stock moved, Bitcoin had already recovered. It's not a weakness. That's what a 24/7 global monetary asset looks like. Real quick, if everything that we've just went through is making you think it's time to actually take your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own self-custody, then you need to go to thebitcoinway.com. The Bitcoin Way helps people get into self-custody the right way. No guesswork, no late-night YouTube spirals. And for a free 30-minute consultation, all you have to do is go to thebitcoinway.com/beyondbitcoin and book your session. And after this past week, you shouldn't wait. That's the bitcoinway.com/beyondbitcoin for your free 30-minute consultation. So where does Bitcoin actually fit into all of this? Well, go back to what we heard on that Tucker Carlson clip. The argument is that governments are fighting literally with bombs over who controls the global financial system, who gets to be inside the programmable money network, and who gets shut out. But Bitcoin is not inside that network. Bitcoin cannot be brought inside that network. There is no central bank to take over. There is no headquarters to bomb. There is no CEO to sanction. There is no one who wants to give us the respect we deserve. Just 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. That's the whole policy. No government decided that. No war changes it. Now, Arthur Hayes just published an essay called iOS Warfare. And his argument is simple. Every time the US goes to war in the Middle East, the Federal Reserve follows with money printing every single time. He calls it predictable, familiar, same operating system, different upgrade cycle.
By the end of 2026, what do you think?
I think we're be 500 to 750,000 Bitcoin. I think 2026 and 2027, this is the meat of the money printing. The Trump administration is going to do what they know how to do best, what every government knows how to do best. When in doubt, print the money. If the people are unhappy, print the money and hand them a goodie. And they're going to show up at the polls and hopefully vote for you.
The meat of money printing. That phrase is doing a lot of work. Hayes' argument is that this war, like every war before it, costs more than the government has, which means they borrow, which means they print, which means the dollar gets weaker, which means hard assets like Bitcoin go up. Gold knows this. It was up when the bombs were dropping. And here's the layer that makes this specific moment unusual.
But also, it seems as though there's been reticence about actually buying Bitcoin for the strategic reserve. So far, it's confiscated. The original intent was to own 1 million Bitcoin. Yeah. So I actually think they will start buying because I think this will help Trump in a couple of ways. The midterm elections, part of the reason he won the presidency, I think, was the crypto community. Yes. And another reason, of course, is his family is all in on Bitcoin and other crypto assets.
They haven't bought a single sat on the open market. The U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve holds 328,000 Bitcoin, all of it confiscated, none of it purchased. The original intent was 1 million Bitcoin. The midterm elections, which happen in November 2026, Trump's family all in on Bitcoin, war funding needs money printing, Strategic Reserve hasn't started buying yet. You connect the dots. Here's where I land on all of this. This isn't about number go up. It's about number go down. So far down. This is about freedom versus control. There are people, powerful people, who want to build a financial system where every transaction is visible, programmable, and revocable, where your money can be turned off, where what you can spend and when and on what is decided by someone other than you. And there are wars being fought right now, real wars with real casualties over which countries get brought into that system and which ones do not. But Bitcoin is not in that system. Bitcoin can't be brought into that system. That's the point. So do yourself a solid and study Bitcoin. Before we wrap up, I just want to give a shout out to ClubOrange, formerly known as the Orange Pill app. I've been connecting with a lot of you folks on there, and honestly, it's been great. Thank you so much for connecting with me. If you want to connect with other Bitcoiners like yourself, people who are thinking through all of this stuff, that community exists at cluborange.org. And if you want to connect with me directly, I'm at Oceans, OSHINS. I'll respond. Come talk to me. I'm at ClubOrange. The grocery prices question I opened with, that wasn't a joke. Well, actually, it was a joke, but it's also not a joke. This is about as indecisive as the federal funds rate. There are families right now trying to figure out how to make the math work on both sides of this war. In America, in Iran, in every country whose energy bill just got more expensive because the Strait of Hormuz is crooked. You get that? Strait of Hormuz, crooked. Haha. Nobody voted for any of this. Nobody asked the families. And every generation watching this happen wonders why. The answer is always the same thing in different packaging. We are one of the first generations in history to have an actual exit from that system. Not a protest, not a petition, a monetary network that no government can take over and no war can destroy, and that no printing press can inflate. You need to use it. And that's all I've got. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you hit that like button below, or you can subscribe to the Simply Bitcoin channel for more content like this. We're coming out with it every single day of the week. Also, you can leave us a comment, an emoji. If you're a shitcoin bot, you can Leave us a recommendation for your favorite shitcoin. Your pick. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm at RunDanceBitcoin on X. Otherwise, I'm Oceans. This is Beyond Bitcoin. Until next time.